Welcome. And the Fantasy Six Pack. I'm joined tonight. My co-host's name is Steve Scholz. His Twitter handle is at BigSteveFF. He is also a writer at IDP, guys. He's also a Collegiate Scout for a new position. How you doing, Steve?
What's up, Steve?
Hey. Good. Now, you just got recently hired. Let me just congratulate you here on the show. What can you tell us about your new position?
So I'm going to start writing articles and doing some content for RPO Football, and just going to focus on doing a lot of my defensive articles over there. So really excited to work with Leo and a great group of guys.
For you. What can you tell us about RPO Football?
So they're an up-and-coming website, been around for a little bit, but they're working on expanding their team and just really accurate as far as the rankings. Leo does a great job with those. I mean, last couple of years has been number one in IDP rankings. So
2 in a row, back-to-back. That's
exactly.
Patrick Mahomes' success right there. Congrats to Leo.
Oh, yeah. So between that and Mace, I mean, they have a lot of talented writers, and I'm just excited to join them.
Excellent. Now, you just did one of your most recent articles, and that's kind of why I brought you on the show, and I'm kind of interested in this. You were talking about in your recent article about slot corner production in IDP leagues. I'm kind of interested in that. Like I said, I'm the number 4 ranker. I was top 3 linebackers, top 3 defensive linemen, but I feel like I left a lot on the table with defensive backs. I was only ranked 10th. So I feel like I bring that up just a little bit, maybe get some of your key insight and analysis. Maybe you can help me out too a little bit. What can you tell the audience at home in reference to how you gauge cornerbacks?
So I think for the audience, if you're going to play in a cornerback required league, because sometimes you only play with defensive backs, so that combines your corners and your safeties. But in a cornerback required league, I've really worked on focusing with slot cornerbacks. And, in the NFL today, a lot of teams, they do their base defense out of nickel. And what that means is, we talk about like 4-3, 3-4, but really – they're taking a linebacker away or a defensive lineman away, and they're adding a defensive back. That's essentially because instead of how many teams do really like 2 receiver sets? Usually it's 3 receivers. They have somebody that lines up in the slot, and they need a separate defensive back out there to guard that player. And a lot of times now they're shifting their best player, like a Cooper Kupp, a Devontae Adams, inside. And so that's kind of like, to me, cornerbacks are, you can definitely gauge which cornerbacks are going to be useful. Like 7 of the past, in the top 12 this past year, 7 of the top scoring corners were slot cornerbacks. So if you just take that advice right there, you can find some productive players that are going to score points for you.
You nailed it on the head. If we backtrack just a little bit there, I know when you and I first started playing IDP, it used to be, the packages were 4-3, 3-4. Those were the base, and the subs were like nickel dime. No, it's the other way around now, right? The nickel and dime is what teams are coming out in to combat this pass-happy offenses out there. Too, Steve. I think that's my big fear with playing with corners, because I really don't know, and there's just so many of them, and it's so volatile. It's almost like throwing darts a little bit to me. So I guess it's the fear of the unknown. What's your process when you're trying to target these cornerbacks?
So I look at the history of them. I mean, somebody like Taron Johnson for the Buffalo Bills, four of the past 5 seasons, he has over 90 tackles. I mean, no matter what scoring you're playing in, that's going to add up. And a lot of the times it's nice to start corners that are going to be on defenses that are on the field a lot. So, I mean, if it's a bad team and, like a team like the Jets, I mean, last year was Zach Wilson playing a quarterback. They weren't exactly scoring a lot of points, and they were leaving their defensive players on the field a lot. And, I mean, so the main thing is position. Are they playing slot or outside? I tend to fade players that are on the outside. It's just, like you said, it's volatile. And the other thing is what type of defense they're going to be in and how long are they going to be on the field.
That's another good point. And let me ask you that. I guess strategically, it just makes better sense IDP-wise. You want to get the guys closest to the tackle. So I guess we want the guy in the slot, if you will, the guy closer to the field as opposed to the guy in the offense actually doing true coverage.
Exactly. If you're playing in the slot, you're closer to the ball when it gets snapped. You also have opportunities to blitz. You're going to have you're going to be taking out a lot of running backs. I mean, it's an ideal position. You want to be as close to the ball as possible. Slot cornerbacks are going to provide that for you.
I didn't catch that last part. What did you say, Steve?
So just being close to the ball, the closer you are to the ball for cornerbacks, the better. Like you said, if you're an outside cornerback, you don't know how many times a player is going to be targeted out there, but at least if you're in the slot, you're close to when the ball snapped, you're going to be close to the running back. I mean, taking on running backs, it's just an ideal position to be in.
Yeah, I noticed you got Mike Hilton on your list. That's my boy right there. And IDP's king. I mean, you don't have to be a fancy name, right? As long as you are getting volume and targets and touches. I don't want to spoil your whole list and give it away. I am going to pick your brain a little bit because we want people to read and study your article. A common thing we used to do in IDP, and it's probably still prevalent. I'm not afraid to draft the top rookie corner. I know people are like, don't draft Sauce Gardner, draft the other guy. Well, the rookie season, if you look at like Sauce Gardner's first 5 games of the year, teams were targeting him. They were trying to see if they can get away with it. A rookie corner will get peppered with targets until they realize he's good. So I guess a common strategy for us guys that aren't necessarily good with the corner, if you will, maybe draft that top rookie, that Cooper DeJean or whoever you got on your board. Take him, let him get targeted.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. I mean, if you're in a redraft league or if you're in a smaller league or a shallower league, I have no issues taking a Sauce Gardner. And then, I mean, like you said, first 8 games of the season, they're going to probably see a ton of volume. And that's definitely one strategy. As far as Dynasty, I lean towards targeting slot players. And that could even be, safeties, because a lot of safeties are now playing in the slot. So that can also impact their usage. But as far as cornerbacks, that's exactly how I, try to make sense of the position.
So here's a common question I have and I struggle with, because like you, I wait on defensive backs. And we're gonna go on my show after this one. We're gonna talk a little bit more about safeties, but specifically for you in the cornerback position here, right? Mm-hmm. When do you make that move? Like where do you feel comfortable taking a CB corner 2 or 3 and maybe playing them as your DB 2 or 3 in deeper leagues? Like, who are some of your names out there that jump out to you?
So I'd want to get my defensive ends, my linebackers, and get that covered first. I want 2 stud defensive ends, edge rushers, and I want probably 3 linebackers that are going to rack up tackles. After that, I can start taking some shots on cornerbacks. And so Taron Johnson, mentioned him earlier. He's a player that's been super productive. Kenny Moore, the second of the Colts, he's been fantastic for the last few years. And he just got a contract extension too. So for 3 years, so he's not going anywhere. Devon Witherspoon, kind of your point with rookies, but he played in the slot, I want to say 60% of the time last year. And I think with Seattle now, they have Tariq Woolen. And if they go and take an outside cornerback, they might actually move Devon Witherspoon to the slot more full time. I think he's got huge upside there. So those are a few names that I really like as far as cornerbacks.
Gotcha. Would you be comfortable playing those guys as like a DB2 in your formats?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we're talking about like a cornerback one being like the top 16 guys off the board, all those guys would qualify for me.
Gotcha. And then another question in regards to corners. You know, I did the Age Cliff article over at the Fantasy Six Pack. And what I've noticed is with corner and safety, when you draft these guys young, they usually have a long shelf life. They're not like the defensive lineman, not like linebacker. Pretty much you get a guy, he stays good, and he just stays good there, or he just never ends up being any good. You know what I mean? It's sink or swim with these guys. So hard to know when to get off a player, when to buy a player. So I guess my question would be, what are some players, as far as cornerbacks go, that you are buying? And I guess the follow-up question would be, what are some players that maybe you are planning on selling?
That's a really good question. Well, unfortunately, I'd have to sell Mike Hilton, considering that situation there in Cincinnati where they have like 4 safeties, and I think this is his last year as far as his contract. So I would look to sell Hilton, though he's been a very serviceable cornerback for IDP owners. As far as some guys that I'm buying right now, I really like Alontae Taylor of the Saints. So Paulson Adebo was really good outside, but Alontae Taylor did a lot of slot work for him, and he saw a bunch of targets. Very productive. He was over 200 points in IDP 1-2-3 scoring.
Nice.
Tyrek Stevenson for the Bears. He's kind of more of an outside corner, but I mean the guy was around the football nonstop. And he had a really productive first year. So that's somebody that I would look at as buying. Trent McDuffie for the Chiefs. So before LeJarius Sneed was playing in the slot before 2022, then they put Trent McDuffie there, and they both produced. But McDuffie, if you watch the game against the Dolphins, I mean, he was all over Tyreek Hill. I mean, I think in the playoffs, he really showed the type of player he is. He's definitely somebody that I'm looking at long term.
You know what's funny on that note? I'm going to say about a year ago this time of year. You mentioned Mace earlier in the episode. Mace and me were working together, and we were doing like a little video Zoom call. We were trying to get our rankings together, right? You just brought back a funny memory. And I'm telling him, I'm like, Mace, there's this guy, Trent McDuffie. He's on the Chiefs, and he started stealing all that slot time because everybody knew who Sneed was. Everybody knew he was a superstar in the making. I'm like, I'm telling you, Mace, week 14, week 15, you know, this guy went to the slot. That guy's playing outside. He's going to be your Mace was on all these shows, like reaching up Trent. I think that was like the first conversation we had when we knew we had some. It was on Beatles writing a song note for the first time. Aha, we got it. But yeah, most casual fans would miss the McDuffie. That's an excellent pickup. And I bet you, Steve, you can still get him this year to casual leagues that people that aren't paying attention.
Yeah, I got him in a startup auction. I mean, he still went kind of under the radar. So, I mean, I think this is kind of your last call on getting him for cheap. After that, he'll probably start to cost a little bit more. Another name.
I'm like that with Kenny Moore. Kenny Moore's like that. For years, I got by with that guy. And now everybody knows who the heck it is, so he's off the board. So I think you're right. The Kenny Moores, the Mike Hiltons of the world, might be time to get something out of that while you can.
Yeah. And as you can see from my hat, I'm a Packers fan, so I'll give you an extra player. Keyshawn Nixon was playing in the slot a ton last year, and now because they changed the whole kickoff rule, so players are actually going to be able to return the ball for a change. He's a really good return man. So if you have return yardage as a part of your scoring, that's just an extra bonus.
Heck yeah. Question for you on that too. I really haven't really processed the new rules. So that's the new kick return. You think that's going to benefit the kick returner? You think, because I'm trying to figure out, because I have leagues that I get kick return points, and I can always load up a running back or a DB on the cheap. How do you think the new rules are going to affect those guys?
Well, just seeing them, because they're basically taking the XFL rules, and I mean they have solid returns. I mean, I'm not saying everybody's going to be a Devin Hester, but I mean, I think we are going to actually see a return 4 out of 5 times. So it's going to be competitive now. So, I mean, to me, that's an improvement.
I haven't really thought about it because I was trying to see how it goes. And then of course, the hip tackle rule. I don't know how that's going to change IDP. I would imagine it affects the corners more than anybody else because those guys have to figure out how to tackle. Lay the wood now, so to speak. But I still haven't processed those. That's why I was just trying to see if you had an opinion or a thought.
Yeah, the hip drop tackle, I mean, yeah, maybe that's for guys who aren't as good of clean as tacklers. Maybe that's something that'll cause some missed tackle percentages to go up. But until we actually see the rule in effect, it's really tough to project how it's going to impact things.
Right. I'll tell you another one. I just got off doing all these team previews. You guys can find that on the Fantasy Six Pack. And for our audience that's on Spotify right now that can't see our screen, I'm just literally pulled up Big Steve's article on RPO Football, about slot corner production and how it relates to IDP. We're just having this fascinating talk. I did the team preview over there and same channel and everything. We were talking, and I brought up the Eagles, and I noticed a big glaring need at corner. Both of those guys, and they're on your list. I don't want to spoil your list too much, but you got Slay on there, and I'm like, dude, these corners of the Eagles, they're a little bit older in the tooth. You and I both know with this rookie cornerback class coming up, these guys are going to land in some interesting places. You know what I mean? So I can see not one who they got Bradbury and Slay. I can see maybe one, if not both of them, possibly getting replaced or going to because they're both older. They're both in their 30s. And I said to the Eagles fan I had on the show, I'm like, there's no way the Eagles are okay at that position, as old as it is, plus their whole back 8 just failed them last year. So I can see one of those guys get moved. And I say all that to bring up a point. Know your audience, know your league that you're in. I'm pretty sure those guys are on their last tooth. And if I was a manager, I'd probably be trading them as well.
Yeah, pretty sure Howie Roseman's going to do some work during this draft and do a whole makeover on that defense. I mean, like you said, definitely older, and they could use some new faces there.
The Eagles, I can see them putting somebody in nickel. There's a couple teams that can really help themselves this draft with corners. And again, we talked to rookies till we were blue in the face. Question for you, and this may be a little bit of a deeper grind. This isn't really your article. I'm thinking about year 2 players or year 3 players, maybe guys we haven't seen break out yet. Like, for example, the Broncos, that whole team is going to be like, here you go, get on the field. Here you go, get on the field, I'm looking at other teams, too, out there. Raiders might be another one, The Rams always are just throwing guys out in the field. But is there any guys that you see that maybe aren't a household name and maybe they will be like 365 days from now. Any breakout players or any potential late round finds that you're thinking about in regards to cornerback slot or outside?
I did mention him in my article, but he was the last player I brought up, Jaquan McMillan for Denver.
Nice.
He really came on during the second half of last year. Slot player, he's a playmaker, solid tackler. I think and Sean Payton has really praised him. He's got a spot there. Like you said, Denver's going to be terrible, and their defense is going to be on the field a lot. He's somebody that I like. Another player that is, a few years in the league, Greg Newsome. I like him and Emerson for the Browns. I think they're probably not going to cost you anything. Mm-hmm. And those are a few guys. And then also just bringing up Cam Taylor-Britt for Cincinnati. He's an outside corner, but he's somebody that I know has impressed, and out of that whole defensive backfield, he's probably one of the only guys I actually feel confident is going to be on the field the whole year.
Gotcha. And, just to show my audience at home that I'm not an ageist, there are some older dudes I am looking at. I'm not just saying dump all the older guys. Lions last year were historically bad on the corners. That's how you can beat them. For like the first time in that I could remember, they were hard to run against. It used to be that you just run the ball down the Lions' throat. They were tough to run against, but the way you can get the Lions last year was on the corners. Well, the Lions in the offseason, they brought in a guy. They actually traded. So that's what kind of piqued my interest. They brought in an older guy named Carlton Davis from Tampa Bay. And I know we're shaking our head. He's a tackle guy, hit the ground, hit the wood. If that's a position, I'm just thinking ahead. I'm thinking 365 days from now. If that's a position where, I don't know, the Packers, Bears think they can target, they might want to think again, because Carlton Davis is out there lurking, and he'll probably end up gobbling some tackle points up.
For sure. Though I hope if Green Bay tries that, they just kind of keep doing their, run the ball and play action. Don't even try to mess with a player like Davis.
You would think these teams do their homework. And again, this is all speculative, but it's so hard. And I guess we'll land with this final question on this episode. For me, it is so hard. It is so hard to kind of plan for a corner that I usually just punt it or I stream it. There's a friend of mine, I don't know if you know him yet. His name is Johnny the Greek. He has a cornerback corner article every week that he runs, and he literally just streams a corner. And it's so funny how he writes it, Steve. He writes it like, the atmosphere, it's 30 degrees outside in the snow. It's going to be in the dorm. I'm like, are you serious? Do you take all – I had him on the show. I go, do you take all this into the – he goes into it. He's like a robot, a cornerback robot. I'm like, I don't know how he gets it. And he's like over 80% right. He's so accurate with this stuff. I don't have that. I already know. I'm a defensive lineman, linebacker guy. I know I can gauge that. These guys are a little bit trickier. Is there any tenet? Like, okay, if you were Moses on the hill right now and you're making the 10 Commandments, is there any these other – when it comes to the corners, is there any rules or adages we can give the audience at home?
Yeah. So slot cornerbacks and bad teams for sure definitely helps. If you want to get into the advanced statistics a little bit more, tackle percentage, missed tackle percentage is, something that would be good to look at. If a guy is got missed tackle percentage of over 20%, he could be targeted a lot, but he's not actually going to take down a ball carrier. It doesn't matter. It's not going to put points on the board for you. So those are three things, as well as you can also check the amount of targets that a cornerback's seen the whole year. And that's something that can kind of give you a leg up too. Also playing time. That's the other thing. You can look at the snap counts and literally it'll, break it down like on FTN, how many snaps a player's received in a week. And those are all things that can help you identify players.
And Steve I just want for coming on the show with me, Steve. Steve you lifted up the curtain a little bit, showed us a little bit of that article. I'm telling you guys, if you read his content over there at RPO Football, it goes in depth, analytical. He has his rankings. He has it all set up. Really impressive article, Steve. And thanks for sharing a little bit of that with us. And I agree with you with the targets. I know a lot of guys last year around this time, going back last year, a lot of guys were targeting Sauce Gardner early picks. I was waiting rounds. I was waiting way rounds. And I was getting a guy named DJ Reed. Who the hell's DJ Reed? Let me tell you, he's the guy getting all the targets because that guy's actually really good in coverage, So that's a little strategy you can play. I guess what we can say in this article, in this episode, the point we're trying to make, just because